battle like we anticipated against a team who I think is certainly one of the top 20, if not higher, teams in the country, even without the preseason conference player of the year. They're deep, they're fast, they're athletic. But our guys met the challenge today, prepared well, got off to a good start. So I was really, really proud of how they approached the game from a mental standpoint. Again, we get up 19 points, and you hope to be able to extend that to 24 or 25. The reality is it just doesn't happen very often in this league, guys. I mean, teams have too good of players. They have coaches who make adjustments, and they're all tournament caliber teams. And tournament caliber teams find a way to respond and make sure that the game at least is going to be in the balance late. So I thought our guys' response to their response was obviously critical because we lost the lead there and had to make some plays to win. And our guys made winning plays throughout the final stretch of the game. We talked to that last media about having to beat a tougher team. And collectively, I think over the course of the game today, that showed up with a tougher team. And big shout out to our crowd. Thought they were sensational again. There's several in a row. We're starting to build something really, really cool with our student crowd, especially with even our non-student fans. The energy in the building was phenomenal throughout. And certainly, I don't know if we win that game if we're on the road today. I think being at home definitely was, a difference maker for us because our crowd stuck with it even when we lost the lead and helped pull us through. And honestly, my vision for this program getting back to where everybody who cheers for it wants it to go is that we continue to replicate that and find more people to come. I think it was somewhat around 10,000. We host 13, 6, 11. So that's what we're shooting for. And one day we're going to get there because I know that our fans appreciate the way our guys compete, the way they compete defensively, the hustle that they play with, the heart that they play with. We don't always play great, but these guys compete their butts off, and that was the difference today.
A few months back, you guys struggled with those scenarios where you have a big lead and you lose games. What kind of growth have you seen in those scenarios?
Yeah, that's what as a coach, you hope for. And obviously, I come in here on November 10th after losing to Southern Illinois, and I feel bad that we're not there yet. But I have a vision for our team always getting better as the year goes along. And if you don't struggle early, it's hard to grow. We don't want to lose. The kids are out there trying their best, but they don't know what they don't know. Sometimes you have to go through difficult moments to figure out what works best for you. And there's been a lot of dynamics with this team this year between Woody's dad and Moose's injury. Now, Avery's out here. Kids keep showing up every day and believing in our staff, in themselves, and most importantly, believing in each other. Because if you do that, and you stick with the plan, you don't deviate. You block out the outside noise that tells you on November 11th that your coach should be fired and everybody's not good enough to be on scholarship here. Then you have a chance to really do some special things. And if you're good enough, you got to have the talent, no question. But we do. We've got talented enough players, and our kids are getting better. And it's a credit to them.
What planet is Caleb on right now? Caleb Boone.
Oh man, the planet I hoped he had been on for the last 3 years. I'll give him his freshman year. But I saw something in that kid as a freshman in high school that I thought he could become the type of player that we're seeing now. And not prophetic or anything. I've just seen enough good basketball players that I believed his ability, if he worked hard enough, because there was a lot of work to be done, that he could become one of the best players in our conference. To be honest, the truth is he fought it a little bit for a while. Not that he didn't want to become that. I think it was more like that's a scary proposition to put yourself out there. Most people don't like that kind of expectation. Rather just kind of stay below the radar, be good, show up, not have to be accountable, not have to be counted on, and just be a dude that blends in. And I always knew he could be a guy, a guy who was one of the best players on one of the best teams in our league, and he's been showing that for the last, month or so now.
Do you think Boone is shaping into a real offensive leader for the team?
Yeah, I mean, if you watch us play, we've always tried to play through him. He hasn't embraced it the way he's embracing it now. He's demanding the ball. He's telling our coaching staff and his teammates where he wants it, how he wants it, and then he's putting the defense in a tough spot. When you get to that level of belief, because what you have to do is you got to live with the result. It's not going to always work out. But you have to have the courage and confidence to put yourself out there and be okay with if it doesn't work out, and that's where he is right now.
Was Avery in like a break glass in case of emergency kind of thing, or was he just trying to give him?
The house would have had to been on fire, and I mean, I don't know what the number of players you can go down to. I think maybe 2, but that would have probably been the only case he got in today if we were down to 1 player left.
So what's kind of the update on him then? What's the
But
status?
just monitor him. He's got a little bit of a sprain wrist. He re-aggravated that. He had it earlier in conference play, and he fell again in our game Wednesday. On top of it, he just came down with a little bit of a cold here. And so, again, want to win them all, not at the expense of these kids' health. And so, when he's ready to come back out there confidently, comfortably, healthily, we'll do that. And in the meantime, we got to have what we had today. Other guys step up and be ready to help us.
Going back to Caleb, he's always been good with his back to the basket. What has he been doing these last few weeks, like technically on the court standpoint, that he hasn't been doing in the past?
Slowing down. He's very rarely sped up and playing at a pace that's uncomfortable for him. And then he's playing with better vision. He's seeing double teams. I mean, the lobby through the moose is something that they practice, but you still got to execute it against real defense. A lot of times in practice, he's doing it against Bernie Gardner and Carson Sager coming down to double team. Not the same as Damian Ball and Emmanuel Miller with their physical approach. So I think as a senior, you start to see the game a little bit different, and he's playing like a really confident player right now. With
Woody and Q in foul trouble, you went big again for a little bit. How beneficial is that now that you can play 2 styles if you need to?
Yeah, I talked about this. I think when Moose was out, the opportunity to figure some things out about our team that we didn't know. And we talked about it before. The plan was always to be able to use Woody as our 4, and then he was out for 3 weeks to start the season. So, having him back and then Moose getting hurt allowed us to discover that. But we've known that those guys, they were playing well together early in the year. So being able to do both can really give us, the ability to make teams figure out how they're going to guard us, and the more different ways you put on the other team to have to think, the less they can just play freely.
Mike, TCU takes the lead there, and you guys go into timeout. What's the message to John Michael? And he hits those 2 pretty gutty free shots right there.
Well, honestly, the message is stop turning the ball over. I mean, really good team. But we knew turnovers lead the points for them. They're the best team in the country in fast break points. And so if you turn it over, you're just playing into their hands. And when we were able to get our defense set, other than a couple pick and pop threes, which we adjusted to by switching the ball screens, a lot of their points were coming off of just bad offensive decision making. So really it was just, let's get a shot. 2 things can happen. You can make it or miss it, or we got a chance to with Musa and Caleb out there to get an offensive rebound, maybe get fouled. But you take all those things off the table when you just throw the ball to the other team. So it was really just a matter of executing our plays, get a shot on the rim, and then seeing what happens.
During those stretches with the few turnovers, and especially in the second half, is that just guys trying to do too much, or like you said, just kind of bad passes?
I mean, obviously being down 19, they ramped up their physical pressure, their approach, and we kind of got a little comfortable. Some of the passes weren't even really like challenged. I mean, we literally just threw the ball to no one. I mean, it landed out of bounds. So I think just losing our focus briefly, and that's all it takes against the caliber teams that we play twice a week now is, but they don't run or whatever, and that's a different ballgame.
What'd you see from John Michael Wright late? Just what he was able to do, kind of take over?
Just belief, a confidence, and a courage to, again, live with the results. He was a little bit hesitant earlier in the year to do those type of things. And part of it is coming in and embracing his role as a secondary scorer. He probably took it too far. Still needs him to find his aggressive points in the game. And especially now, Bryce didn't play great. Avery's out. Need a guard out there to make some plays. I thought him and Asbury were terrific.
Do you feel that the team's urgency shifted right after TCU took the lead there and came all the way back?
I don't know. I think part of it, honestly, is our crowd sticking with us and pulling us over the hump and not getting down and continue to bring energy and driving our guys. And I think every time we made a play and they would get excited, it'd give our guys a little bit more motivation. So again, I don't want to downplay at all the significance that our fans had on this game today.
Did you get an explanation on the flavor on John Michael?
Apparently he grabbed his jersey.
Okay.
I haven't seen it myself, and obviously I think that's kind of an automatic on a fast break. You can't grab a jersey. Haven't seen the play, so I wasn't really in any position to argue it. And we're told not to look up at the replay, so because that's another technical if you then point to the scoreboard. So it's kind of a tricky situation. I had to act like I didn't know what was going on, even though I heard our fans screaming that was a bad call.
That was kind of the point that kind of flipped for TCU. Was that? Did you feel that momentum a little
Sure,
bit there
sure,
too?
sure. There were a couple plays there that calls went their way. That that's all it takes. Against a really good team, a couple shots don't go down, and then they get the benefit of that, and they could flip the confidence of a team that really was kind of searching. They were kind of searching at that point. The problem was it started with a bad turnover, and if it doesn't start with a bad turnover, we're never in that position.
Did you get a view of his save too? That,
John Michaels?
yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one live during the actions. A tremendous play, heads-up play. Obviously, something we talk about, we work on, but to have the wherewithal in the moment to do it, it looks like him and Asbury made eye contact, but you always want to throw it as far away from the other team's basket as possible. And Asbury went and made a great play on it.
John Michael said he didn't know where Asbury was.
Okay, well, it's even
So,
better that he
yeah.
knew to throw the ball as far away from the other team's basket. I'm glad Asbury saw it then.
You talk.
When you bring in somebody from the Big South, how confident are you on how they'll adjust to this level in like a game like today? How do you know a guy? How do you know that a guy can do that?
I mean, you don't know any of it, to be honest. I mean, in some ways, everyone. It doesn't matter if they come from UCLA. I mean, it's the same thing. Our league's different than every other league in the country, far and away. I mean, if you look at the analytics, it says that this league is leaps and bounds better than the next best conference. So the adjustment is going to be a big one no matter what. The thing I try to evaluate is, where's he been coached at before? Do I think that the things that he's been taught, I can help him become? What kind of skill does he really bring? And then obviously size for position matters. He's obviously not a big guard, but for 3 years, he shot over 40% from three. He scored almost 2,000 points, and he played for a phenomenal basketball coach. So I know he's been taught the game. And those things are things you try to take into account when you're taking the transfer. As you don't have as much time to find out all the intangibles, what kind of work ethic he has, what kind of teammate he is. You don't really know that till you get him here. And so, in many ways, with all recruits, there's a little element of luck involved.
You talked a lot about supreme confidence this year. Caleb Asbury had like a cherry pick steal, instantly step back and hits three. For a guy who just made his first start, where does he find this level of confidence?
That's a great question. I'll be honest. I love to hear what he would say, because there's sometimes that I wonder what he's thinking out there. But he's never afraid. I think it comes. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. Usually guys who have to go the JUCO route have a different perspective on this stuff. And then he went and played at a lower level in college. Had success everywhere he's been. Played for really good coaches. And I think he feels prepared. I think he feels like he's as good as anybody. Helps having some experience doing this, but his skill is certainly something that we identified. We told him, and we constantly tell him the reason that we decided that he was be somebody that could fit with the team we were trying to build for this year. And he's going out there and played in a way that has rewarded that.
It's the third game in a row you guys have built an early lead. What's been the kind of difference, even going back to the Ole Miss game?
I mean, you're only as good as your preparation. The kids have had great preparation. My staff, again, they do a phenomenal job. Terrence Rencher had the scout today. I mean, I don't think there was anything that the TCU team was going to do that our guys were going to be surprised by. And that's ultimately our job as coaches, is to give them as much information without bogging them down, so that they can play freely. And they felt confident. I mean, obviously we got several stops to start the game because we knew exactly where we were supposed to be on the defensive end. And then we executed our offense really well. So the combination of it, there's some personnel, right? Having Caleb out there in the floor space has made a big difference in us being able to get off to the good starts lately, because we've pretty much thrown them the ball and tried to figure out how teams are going to guard them to start each game.
How much fun is this team having right now? I mean, just winning 5 of the last 6.
I guess you'd have to ask the kids that. I've really enjoyed coaching this group, and I told them it's the most fun I've had coaching a team as a head coach. my first year, I was just trying to figure out who the hell I was as a coach. You know, I didn't even give the kids a chance to get to know themselves. And then you go through and you have some struggles, and then, you know, even the year we had Kate, it was hard to really enjoy it because every day we were trying to figure out if we were going to play, if we were going to be able to practice. I mean, it was just so much psychologically going on that year. So this is kind of the first year you feel, and obviously we know last year, it was just annoying, to be honest, going through the year. This year, guys know that there's real tangible goals out there for themselves, and I think they're embracing the opportunity to do it together.
I think you mentioned it was either the midweek press conference or maybe at one of your games, how hard it is to string wins together in the league. You're the only team in the league right now with more than a one win in a row, one loss in a row. Does the 3 feel like 30 when you win that many games in a row?
Well, we haven't seen 3 in this league yet, so I don't know. Well, I'll tell you if that happens Wednesday. What I try to focus on is the next game. We're not going to think about it too as we go into preparation on Monday. We're going to think about how do we give ourselves the best chance to beat Texas Tech. You know, I just watched that team down 23 with the 2 starters, one that I recruited really hard and one that was the #1 transfer recruit in the country, out down 23 and win a game in this league against the team who blew out Kansas today, right? So you never get comfortable. You always got to understand the next game is more difficult. No matter how hard this game was, the next game is more difficult to win. And so I always say it. The second hardest thing you can do in this league is look ahead. The worst thing you can do is look behind you. No matter how the game went, win or lose, you got to be in the moment and try to approach the next game with the same amount of focus, preparation, understanding of what it's going to take to win. And then you got to have some toughness and courage to make plays during the game.
Anything else for Coach?